Welcome to the After 5 p.m. podcast, where we clock out of mortgages and clock into life, finances, and family. This is Sean, the host, and we have Ben McAfee here today, as well as our guest, Macrae Heppler.
Macrae, dude,
Thanks for having me.
So good to have you on the podcast.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Understand you just got back from Hawaii.
I did.
Give me like one or two of your highlights from your trip.
Just my 2-year-old, it was like the first experience of her being able to walk in Hawaii, and it was an absolute blast. She loved the beach. And then my 8-month-old too, she just loves the sand, which was kind of an issue because she tried to put it in her mouth. And so we actually tried keeping her away from the sand, but at the same time letting her play. But just having them, it was kind of daunting because we go to Hawaii with my in-laws every year, but last year was just Coco, and she couldn't walk or anything. So this year it was like a walking toddler and an 8-month-old, and it was kind of daunting, but they were both gems, and it was just a blast having them.
Here's what I find interesting about you, Macrae. It's been fun to know you since 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Watching you as a single dude,
then
to get married, and then to think, oh my gosh, these two treat their dogs like people. Maybe they're never going to have kids.
Yeah.
And now to watch you be a dad of 2 girls is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate that. The dogs actually, they probably think that their life is not as great now. Unfortunately, we didn't think that, everyone always says that when the kids come, like, just so you know, your dogs are going to hate it. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be the same. We're like, no, it's always going to be the same. Yeah. They still have a fantastic, fantastic life, but the kids have taken...
Were you the dog person, or was your wife the dog person?
No, neither of us really were. It was the most bizarre thing because growing up, my family, we've always had dogs. And that was because of my brother Hayden loved dogs. So when we were 5 and 7, they got him a dog. And my parents weren't dog people either. Now, you talk about dog people. My parents, their lives are determined by their puppies, and now they're grandkids. I love watching my kids with them, but they were all dog people. And growing up, I was just like, oh yeah, Oscar or Daisy, or but it was never like lay with me and like, I'm a dog person. And Shan was kind of the same way. But then when we were dating, there were some dogs, and it just, I don't know. We became dog people.
So I had a dog growing up, right? Half Chow, half Labrador. It was an outside dog. It was treated like a dog, not a member of the family. But I married into a family that every single one of them had large dogs. And I remember going to a family function, and there was, I believe, 3 Labradors, a Doberman Pinscher. Anyways, it was just one of those, there's way too many big dogs in this house, overwhelmed by it. So I married into a dog family, and of course we have a 105-pound Labradoodle, greatest dog in the world. But it's just funny to watch how dog people are very different than those that either embrace it or you don't.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Macrae, you're in the title business. Kind of just going over a little bit of your background. You have done summer sales for Vivint. Mm-hmm. How many years did you do that?
3.5.
Okay, 3.5 years. Went out, crushed it, made some money there. Came back, started a gym with another business partner. Ran a gym for a number of years, and then got into the title business with your family. So, could you give us just a quick, brief overview? Not getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that go through a real estate transaction that even at the end, they have no idea. Yeah, we knew that there was a title company involved. We still don't completely understand what they did in the transaction. So give us the elevator pitch of how you would explain what a title company is and what you do.
Yeah, so essentially everyone knows, I'm going to go close on my house, whether they're buying or selling. I'm going to closing. So that's the easiest way to connect with somebody that doesn't know what we do, because we are the place where the closing happens. In a nutshell, we are the middleman between the mortgage lender, between the realtors, between everybody that's involved in this transaction, getting from A to Z. We are where it ends up So we like to say that we tie a bow on it at the very end. Everything funnels down to the title company where all the documents come, all the money comes, and then we push record to create that transfer of title. And essentially that's the closing is what people remember, right? And that's happens in our office. So
Sean, how do you describe it? How do you describe the role of a title company as a lender? I'm sure you get that question. How do you explain it?
Yeah, usually you guys don't come up until like earnest money or until closing. And it's usually how I describe it is, hey, they've been helping behind the scenes throughout the process.
yeah, most of it's behind the scenes.
And they're the middleman between buyer, seller, realtor, lender. They'll handle all the funds, and then they'll make sure when everything's closed that you get the deed and record from there.
Yep.
I look at title being, no offense, I think it may be one of the more of the boring sides of the real estate transaction. It's pretty much mostly paperwork. But it's the insurance piece. I think a lot of people scratch their head on saying, you know, we understand the closing. We understand sitting down with a notary and having them explain docs. But it's the insurance element.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think we really need to get into the insurance piece just because, well, we can but it's essentially both parties are insured that going forward, the seller, none of the seller's baggage that they may have had is going forward on the property
With liens
or anything, any defunct
line disputes.
Yeah, a lot of different types of disputes is the insurance product. But essentially, the closing aspect of it is what people remember. So like when I'm out there talking to people, just normal people about what we do, that's it.
Yeah.
And we are the boring piece. And that's why when I got into it, I realized how boring it was, both marketing.
And I didn't mean that in an offensive way.
No, I call it boring. And it's dinosaur. It's very old school. And that's why that was a challenge for me that I wanted to overcome, and I wanted to disrupt what the industry was in whatever ways I could. There's some ways that I'm limited, marketing laws. There's ways I'm limited. The processing through the county and the softwares that are used in the county, just the county side itself, it can be limiting just because it is very antiquated in a lot of ways. One thing that I did was the software we use when we started the company, we used a software called Turbo, and I literally felt when I was on it that I was in 1985. It was black screen, like the blocky it was 100% 1985, and I was like, I can't even operate on this. And so I didn't. Because I'm not in the transactions every day. And so now it's nice because I can get on my phone and if anybody asks me something, I can quickly get in and see. Back then, if I was out and about, I would just have to call in, and because I'm like, I don't know how to use Turbo, and I couldn't use it on my phone either. So in 2018, I got a call from Qualia. Randomly, they found me out of all the partners. And they were like, hey, we got this new software. And I was like, I would love this, but my partners are pretty stuck on Turbo. If you can talk to them and talk them into it, like, I'm game to look at it. So they call Matt, my other partner, and he calls me. He's like, hey, I got a demo call with Qualia. And I'm like, cool. Like, I didn't want to push it on you guys, but like, if you want to take a look at it, fine. And now it's like the leading software in title, and it, for the most part, it does a really great job. And so that was one of the things that made us better for sure overall is the software we were using. And actually I got to give props to Sean because we operate as a team a little bit different. It's a little bit different of a operation than most title companies. We have really 2 escrow officers that work on every file and then a team surrounding them. And at one point, we were still a smaller team. This was probably 16 or 17. And we didn't have a team email address, and no one really did. And now actually a lot of escrow teams now have these emails. But Sean was like, hey, you guys should get a team email address. That way people don't have to worry about like who they need to send to. And like they can just send it there, and you guys are all on it. And I was like, that is brilliant. So...
STG
the STG team at EagleGateTitle.com. So anyway, So that was a turning point. And what's funny now, like, I'm not going to take credit for all title companies having a team email, but I have noticed as time went on, more and more people started, whether it's Team Stephanie or Team whatever, team, like, I started noticing it more, and it makes sense. And it's been a huge reason why, as we've grown, Les is doing more transactions than probably anybody, like, on as like a single escrow officer, but it's because of the team that we've built around her. And as we've grown, it's just always remained a constant like really high functioning communicating team, because we're all on that. So props to Sean for
rock on.
Yeah.
I have
giving me that idea.
I have a team email, and the way I describe it is
Rachel at.
I take offense to that, Sean.
Here's my team email, Rachel.
But I have a team Ben at momentumloans.com, and in that, I'm in meetings. I'm in this podcast, right? If there's an email question that comes in that multiple members of the team can answer,
exactly,
why leave that person waiting that extra hour, 2 hours before a response? It's just efficiency, increased communication. You can never go wrong there.
Absolutely.
So I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier, and then I'll kind of close the loop on maybe the boring talk. One of the ways that I talk to consumers on what a title company does is there's two main functions. They act as an independent third party that's helping facilitate the closing and recording. But the insurance piece is very simple. You don't want to buy a car that has a bad title. You don't want to buy a house that has a bad title. So that insurance helps keep things clean, that if there was something that was missed, something that should have happened, you have some insurance that you can lean on, especially when you're buying the largest asset. So
for sure,
keeps it kind of high level, kind of simple, but
that's a great way to put it.
Most people,
I'm going to use that going forward.
Most people go, huh?
Makes sense.
That makes sense. So
for sure.
But of course, there's a ton more that happens behind the curtain. So
totally.
Help me understand. You getting into title, you jumped in without working in it to start a title company with your mother.
Correct.
I'm just so intrigued with why. Tell me the story. Where did you have the idea? Who pitched who on it? How has that partnership and family relationship developed?
Yeah, so I was working for Vivint door to door. I did that for, like, I say 3.5 because it was 3.5 summers, because in the middle of my fourth summer, I flew home because I had bought into a gym, and it was going to be a silent partner experience for me that turned into a day job, and which kept me here more. And I had a deal with Vivint during my fourth summer that I would come home to check on the gym, make sure bills were paid, that people were, members were paying everything. So I fly in and I drive to my mom's office to say hi, because I hadn't been here for a few weeks. So I go to her office, and at the time when I walk in, they are shutting down their office because the business was shutting down because of some legal reasons. That it was a company she worked for. So I help her start boxing up. She's kind of a mess. She's like, I don't love the new owners. I don't know where. She hates change anyway. Like, she's very old school in a lot of ways, and I've talked to her about getting an iPhone for a few years, and it's just not going to happen. And she doesn't like change. And so it was a very hard time for her. And so
interjecting that story,
yeah.
How long had your mom been working in title prior?
Since 1987, before I was born.
So she's one of the solid stones of Washington County in the title business.
Oh yeah, she is a pillar for sure. I mean, she's been around longer than I've been alive, and started at Zions Bank in early 80s, and then got recruited to Dixie Title, was there for 11 years, and then 11 or 12, then went to United Title and was there until 2015. And so anyway, they're shutting down. I start helping her box things up, and I'm like, hey, like, what's the story? So she tells me, and I just said, well, why don't, like, you've done this long enough, like, why don't you just start your own? Like, we could start our own. Like, I could run the operations. I can go out and market. You've never had a marketer before. You do a great, like, everyone I talk to in real estate says that you do a fantastic job. So she's, her first thing is, well, you can't just start your own title company. And I said, well, why not? Because everybody else has at some point. And I had told her, I'm like, the gym was never my thing. I started Vivint. I did Vivint so that I could come and start a business here in St. George, and just feel like it's a good opportunity. So she was like, I'm just going to look into it, see, what it entails. And worst case, I'm 25. Like, worst case, I can figure something else out. Which ended up being the same conversation when we started. I said, listen, if this thing goes bust, like, you have a lot of people calling you saying that you can go work for them and I can go on my way. But I feel like we should just try it. So it took me 2 months to convince her. Finally did. We connected with our 2 partners that we still have today at Eagle Gate up north. Opened the office down here. It took us, instead of taking 2 or 3 months to get an office started, which was one of the hurdles that we were trying to get over, we were up and running in less than a week, and we were off to the races. And I loved real estate already. I was already real estate investing. I had bought my first property. I was going down that path, but I had no idea what title was. I had no idea what she did, other than I knew that she closed homes for people. That's all I knew. And which is why I feel like closing, it just is what most people think of. And anyway, so I was like, I just knew that I could sell her. The reason why I sold Vivint and the reason why I was successful with Vivint was because I really believed in the home automation app on your phone. You got everything you can control on your phone. And the reason why I was able to sell it was because I believed in it. And I just knew that she was the best at what she did, that she had a team that we could already depend on. We had a little bit of clientele that she already had kept through all these years, and that I could just build on that, whatever it was. Little did I know that it would end up becoming like the perfect business for me to be in, because real estate is all about relationships. I'm a really big friends guy. Like, I love being with friends. I love being with family. And that's real estate in a nutshell, is you work with people that for the most part you love to work with. Right. And so anyway, August of 2015, we started, and I got my marketing license, and I quickly realized how limited I was on what I could do to market or to, earn business, and just how antiquated in, dinosaur the industry was. But I knew that there was some disruptible things within that I could do, and just went off to the races, just trying to figure out how to build value for people to get them to come and use us. So
from an outsider looking in, it looks like you guys just came out of the gate and crushed it. You built fast. Did you ever expect the success at the rate that it happened?
No. And even looking back, I don't look at it as super fast. However, but then when I think about it on a grand scale, it has been pretty quick. And a lot of that is because of the partnership we have with the 2 partners up north. And I was really able to, because what I told my mom, I said, you don't have to worry about, she was worried about keeping the lights on. She was worried about all these things. And I just said, you know what, listen, you know how you've been doing your closings for the last 30 years, and that's all you've had to worry about. That's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just trust me, I will handle everything else to the best of my ability. And luckily that didn't entail all the stuff that can bog you down with, running an insurance company of, auditing and reconciling and all these things. And my partners have been a big part in that. And as I was able to just go out and seriously just focus on growing the company for the most part. And so that's what helped. I think that people, I don't know. It's a weird industry to market in. And I feel like a lot of people get burnt out with it. A lot of people aren't super aggressive. And I just was like, I'm going to go grow this company because it's my family's company. Like, I'm not just a marketer that works for a title company. This is my company. It's me and my mom. We are going to change the trajectory of our family's life forever if we do this correctly. Because my dad was a school teacher. My mom worked for a title company. We always had what we needed growing up. We never went without. We were very blessed. We were very spoiled kids, me and my brother. They always took care of us. but I know what it means to retire in today's world and what you need in order to like comfortably retire. It is like, it's no joke, you know. and I never knew my parents were fine. Like they would have been fine. But this company has definitely changed the trajectory of our life. And because they didn't invest in anything before, really, it was just very simple people, the best two people I know. I love them so much. And I love how simple they have always been. And they're always like, where did you come from? Because you're just this crazy entrepreneur kid. And anyway, I'm just glad that my mom trusted me enough to let me handle the rest of what she didn't want to handle. And the partnership between her and I is perfect. Every weakness I have is her strength. Every weakness she has is my strength. We'd never, it's very rare that we disagree on anything. And if we ever do disagree, I'm always the one that's ends up, I'm like, I'm so glad we went with you because so it's been a great partnership. My dad, my brother works with us. My dad was able to hang it up a little earlier than we thought he would as a teacher and as a coach. He just takes care of the house and the dogs, and as I mentioned, the dogs. And and yeah, it's been fun, been super fun.
What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about getting into business with a family member?
Trust and communication. There's a lot of horror stories with people going into business with family, and I understand why. I understand where things could go wrong. I understand where things could go really awkward. I understand where things could, completely tear a family apart. And I think that if it's just built on trust, if it's built on communication, transparency, and there's no, it's rare that it can work as. I feel like our partnership, me and my mom, is pretty. Flawless is a really strong word, but it's pretty close to like no issues. And I know that that's rare, but I feel like it's just because we trust each other so much and we communicate so well that that's what I would start with. And it's been really cool with my mom because my dad growing up was my teacher and he was my coach. So he was picking us up from school, practice. Most of my time spent in my childhood was with my dad, and my mom too. But my mom during the 2000s with the real estate boom here. I mean, it was like she is always. You guys know, 10 p.m. emails from Les are not a rare thing. But that's what she had to do as, the earner that she was. Like, she owned her job, and that's why I always knew, like, when we started the business, it was like she's always owned her job like she owns her company, even though she never did. And growing up, she did feel bad at times, for sure, when she would miss a game or that she wasn't, she would get home at 6 or 7 and or later. And I know there was times that she felt bad, but it's so cool because now I get to see her almost every day. And for the last 9 years, and like the relationship that we have now, it's been cool. I don't see my dad as much as her, but I have a great relationship with my dad, and we golf and we hang out and we go over there, especially now with the kids. Like grandma and grandpa are so fun. And so it's just been awesome. I feel super blessed to be in the position that we're in, and we're building a really good team around her that is going to continue to carry it on. And my brother's a big part of our operation as well, and it's been awesome.
I see a lot of family members who are in business together, maybe a husband and wife that work together. It's really hard to separate.
That's hard.
The work and family.
My wife would kill me.
What is it like on a Saturday afternoon when you're hanging out? How do you draw that line to not constantly to be able to turn off business?
Or does it even turn off? And sometimes I think it's okay if it doesn't, but
yeah, and it can get brought up in family, just hanging out on a Saturday or Sunday for sure. The good thing is it's never like a contentious thing, or it's never an argument of any kind. It's just, files get brought up, or something that happened that week gets brought up, but honestly, because of the girls and like the whole focus is Coco and Lola for the most part, we talk about it, but we don't have to be like, hey, let's not talk about it. Like it's just part of conversation, and honestly, it's fine.
It's a look from your wife or from your dad. It's
Yeah.
like, enough's enough.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even remember the last time that's even happened.
Yeah.
But if it was me and my wife working together, that's a little different. I think she would kill me if we actually worked together. But there are people that do it, and they do it successfully, and I got to give props to that. A mother-son dynamic is very unorthodox, but I think that it works. And she is a professional in every regard. I look up to her so much, and I've learned so much.
The industry knowledge, the experience, her work ethic, coupled with your hustle.
Yeah.
I like you said earlier, the complementary skill set is impressive.
Yeah.
It's been impressive to see what you guys have done. Something that I've noticed that you have done for your business is, and I'm curious where the idea started from. Like, I want to see how this has morphed into what it is today. But you, once a week, every other week,
Once
or so?
Once a week is the goal.
Yeah. So you do a video that you push on all the social media platforms of different areas, that developments that are coming, the different retail, the different commercial space that's coming in. Where did that idea and concept originate, and how did it morph?
So it started out when we first started the company, and I started thinking of ideas to market. I came from Vivint, which was a very incentivized. They incentivized their sales reps like me. Every ladder or every level we would hit, we would get something cool. And there's all these levels, and you were always pushing to get those levels because you were going to get something cool. Well, I came into it like, I'm going to incentivize all these agents to bring me business, and I'm going to do that. Well, I quickly learned that was a no-go. Yeah, and that there were very few things that I could do outside of just building real relationships with people and just figuring out, how to get business from them. But I wanted something that I could stay in front of people. And it was actually a competitor of mine that you guys know, Tanner Gatchell, another lender. At the time he was in title, and we were talking, and he's like, I just do a newsletter once a month that I just blast out. And I was like, man, I hate newsletters. I do not open them. And how many people actually open them? And he was like, I don't know. It's just think about it. So I started thinking about it. And I didn't want it to be like one of those templated newsletters that are just, they see your name and that's great, but that's about it. I wanted actual substance. I wanted actual value. I wanted it to be a something that could be a conversation starter. One thing I've really tried to do is I try to give out all these resources so that people reach out to me. Because in title, one of the things that I don't do it anymore, but prior to COVID, you would just go around to all the offices and you would bug people. And I hated doing it because I just felt like I was bugging people. But that's just what people did, to meet agents and to meet all these, these people that were going to send us business. And so I always felt like I was just bugging people. If I was calling someone, I felt like I was bugging them. And I didn't want it to be like that. So I figured out ways to get people to reach out to me and say, hey, I need this. Hey, I need this. Hey, do you have this? Hey. And then that way it was like, oh, they need me. And then if I'm good enough in those things, maybe they'll send me business too. Because it was stuff outside of transactional stuff. So anyway, long story short, I went to the What's Up Down South Summit in 2016. I saw all the cool stuff coming. And I was like, and I was going around town, like already at all these brokerages, seeing all this dirt moving everywhere. 2015-16 was when commercial real estate really started coming back here in St. George. And I'd always go into the brokerages, and that was one of the conversations pieces, was like, hey, did you guys see like what's going on right here? And so then I thought, well, I'll just put this into a newsletter. If I run out of content one day, I'll think of something else. But I'm just going to put like a comprehensive list of everything that I know that's going on into a newsletter, and I'm going to send it out the first of every month. And I started doing that. And about 2 years into that is when I learned what a drone was. And at that point, I really wanted to put it onto social media, but I didn't want to put it onto social media as a written thing. I wanted it to be video. And so got the drone, and my first videos are awful, but I just started doing it. And 6 years later, that was in 2018, 6 years later, I'm still doing the videos, and it has been a huge network builder for me, both in my business as well as just in the community in general. It's been awesome. And essentially what I do is, it's called What's Happening in Southern Utah. And I go around to different areas and highlight all the new business, all the new development, everything, roads. I've gotten really good relationships with the cities, which has been awesome. And just learning infrastructure and development and everything that goes into all that has been super fun. And then I just put it out there, and people eat it up. They love it.
You become
it's crazy.
You become the resident expert. Everyone, the second they see dirt being moved, I'm going to call Macrae.
Yeah.
See what he knows about it. I just think it's really a genius.
It's
approach.
weird because I didn't ever think that it would get to what it is today. The first couple of years, because basically I had a lot of people that would reach out, news stations, different things, and be like, hey, do you want to put it on our platform? And I'd be like, okay, what's the cost? And they would tell me, and I'm like, well, I'm not interested in the views. I'll be honest. I'm not interested in just your average, your consumer, or just, if my viewership is real estate. And in my distribution email that I would send out was all the people that could send us business: realtors, lenders, builders, developers, people that their eyeballs really mattered to me. And that's what really mattered to me, because I wanted it to be a resource for them. I wanted it to be something that they could take and give to their clientele. The thousands of people that all these different platforms and stuff were offering to get me in front of, I was like, I don't really care that much. And so I would have people sometimes be like, man, your videos are so awesome. Why do you only get 300 views on it? And I'd be like, I don't know. I just, I don't really care. I don't boost, the videos. I don't do anything. I just, the people that are seeing it are the people that really matter. But then consistency over time, over the last 2 years, it's really, really taken off. And it's been super fun to see. And I really super enjoy it. It's fun.
What is one of the unexpected benefits that you didn't, that was unplanned?
The conversation, some of the rooms that I've been in with very, very high level people that I feel like my friend said this the other day about a meeting he was in, a meerkat. He said, I felt like a meerkat in this room because of the level of people that were in that room, and the connection, the rooms that I've been able to be in, and the conversations about uplifting the business community or the housing community or just St. George in general. And then on a state level, just some of the rooms I've been in, I've been lucky enough to be in, and the people that I've met because of my videos has been really shocking to me.
Awesome.
Because I'm just doing videos about what's happening, but and it's funny too, because I used to talk about, I want to be the most connected person in St. George, and I still want to be that. I want to be the person that anyone could go to for anything. I love connecting people. I love giving referrals. I love helping in any way I can. And I never really expected that the videos would do that. And then it's turned into just the ultimate connecting piece. And so just some of the invites that I've had and the people that I can talk to, I can call on the phone, and I just never would have imagined, when I got into it, I was a 25-year-old kid, and all these real estate people are big wig. I remember going to a SITLA meeting at Sun River at the Hampton Inn one time, and I walk in and I knew nobody. And I was like, I feel so not supposed to be here. and so I had a lot of those experiences the first couple of years of business because of my age, and just because of a title company just isn't, we don't have a lot of people like coming to us and saying, hey, I want business from you, or I'm always the one chasing. And so the last couple of years, it's been really cool to just get invited and to get, be a part of some conversations that I just never thought that I would be a part of. So.
Yeah, on that connection piece, it reminds me of that Zig Ziglar quote. the more people that you help get what they want, the more
Oh yeah,
you'll get in return.
totally. And I 100% believe that. And I try to have, my parents are the most giving people I've ever met. My dad will tip like you would not believe, and just give. He gives and gives and gives and gives. And my mom as well, right there with him. And so I grew up with this, just seeing my parents, just give whatever they had. And
Like
so
financially,
yeah,
or what kind of stuff?
financially, or just, they used to go down to Vegas quite a bit on the weekends, and there was a guy off one of the exits that was parked there all the time with his dog. And they would load up like dog food and food for him. And every time they would go down, they would just pull off the freeway. They knew he was right there. And same thing happened with a family that was behind Subway on Bluff Street for like 2 months. My dad would just go check on them every day and make sure that they're doing okay. So whether it was financially or just giving, of resources of any kind, I grew up with that. And so I've always felt like I want to continue that. And so I've always felt like the more that you give, the more that you get in return. And as long as you're not focused on that getting, right? Like you just focus on giving and it's all going to come back. I fully believe that.
Is that what kind of ties into you wanting to be the most connected person in St. George?
Yeah.
Because of that giving piece, or where does that stem from?
Yeah, I mean, that just because I knew that in real estate, if you're not, in local business here, if you're not connected, you're going to have a tough time doing business here locally. On the flip side, if you are connected, there's so many opportunities that come from that, both in business and in other, I'm trying to be really connected with some of the local charity organizations and some of the university and the school district and all the facets that make St. George what it is. And I wanted to be the most connected because I knew that if I was the most connected, that people would come to me, whether it was I need an electrician or I need a car guy, or if it is in real estate, hey, I'm gonna buy a house, like can you how do I get started? Or someone asked me today, hey, I'm just moving here, I saw your videos, I love them, I don't have a job in St. George yet, I was just wondering if you knew anything. And so I told him, I just said, what are you looking for? It tells me kind of a rundown. I immediately think of Chris Connors, who owns Farmstead Bakery, and he is building just about finished building his distribution center in Leeds, because he's opening up Hurricane, and then he's opening up Springdale, and the Leeds operation is going to be kind of his hub to distribute. And so I text Chris, I'm like, hey, just reached out, this random guy just texted me, and this is what he's kind of looking for, I thought of you. He's like, yeah, shoot him over to me. And so I don't know where that's going to lead. It could lead, and that's the thing is, like, I just feel like if I can, the more that I can connect like that, the more that in some way or another, not whether it's financially or whether it's just blessings in general, like if I'm thinking of other people like that, people are also going to think of me, and the Lord is also going to think of me. So like,
I think the universe has a way of making things right.
Yeah.
So you believe that the more you give, the more you gain?
Correct.
Would you say that's true?
Yes. Absolutely.
And you think it's like this force that's out there, or do you think it's just
I don't know.
Human nature? Is it the law of reciprocity, or what would you?
It's weird. I don't know. That's a good question.
It's like kind of supernatural.
It's just yeah. I don't know. That's a really good question, because I don't really think of it on the depth of that question, but that question is a really good one. I just think that if you're if you're trying to be a really good person that's thinking about other people, that has everyone else in mind, there's whether it's God or whether it's in some fashion the universe and all the good that is in this world, I just think as a conspiring way of getting back to you in some fashion.
I lean towards the God side of things, right?
Yeah.
I think if God blesses you with a good income and money, He's kind of keeping tabs on how you're spending it. Mm-hmm. And what's He going to do if I give Him more? I truly feel that way in the core.
Yeah.
Something I just heard my mom, I can hear her voice ringing in my ears. Because I have been given much, I too must give.
Yeah. Which is a hymn, right?
It is a hymn. So with that ringing in my ears over and over again, it's a great influence. If you give, the universe, I truly call it the universe, call it God.
Yeah. Well, and that's just how like I said, my parents just operated like that always. And they always, like I said, we always had what we needed. You know, we never went without. I was on my mission during the crash, and I know that I didn't get to experience that crash like they did, because they did. I mean, it was an experience, but they made it through. And I feel like no matter, even during those times, I know my dad was giving, like just handing out the way he likes to go to the ATM. He's still an ATM guy. He pulls out his 20s.
What's an ATM?
And you know, you never know how much of that is actually going to stay with him. And he's always just looking out for other people. And I just think if you live that way, it's a much happier way to live. Yeah. And you will see blessings in return.
Did he, as like a father, like instill that message to you? Or was it like something he taught, or just something you saw?
We have these things called Heppisms, and his nickname is He goes by Hep. He's Mark. His name's Mark, but no one he's a legend in this town because he was a teacher and coach for 35 years, and he's a PE teacher, weight training, and then football, basketball, a lot of different golf. And his name is Hep, and he has Heppisms that are these one-liners. And I don't know that there's an actual one-liner for giving. I think it was more so like an example. But for an example, I think this is a little bit different. But one of his Heppisms is, it's leave it better, or if you let's see. It's about borrowing or getting something. If you use something or borrow something or whatever, return it better than when you got it. Than when you found it. So like I remember distinctly there was a pair of boots that it was like Scouts or something growing up, and I borrowed them from somebody, and they were really dirty already. And then I went to the Scout thing and got them more dirty, and I was going to return them, and he's like, well, you're going to clean those first, right? I'm like, well, they were dirty already. Like, he's like, no, you're going to clean those. Like, you're going to return those better than the way you found them. And I think it's just that that mentality, even though it's different, is kind of the same. And if that makes sense, I think that makes sense to me. But I don't know that there's an actual Heppism for giving other than his example and my mom's example.
I just like that there's a thing called a
Heppism.
That's so cool. Yeah. Here's one of mine of that, right? And I brought this up in different sales meetings and training loan officers. I try to instill it in my children. If you see a need, fill a need. If you go into the restroom and someone's left a bunch of missed the garbage can, right? How hard is it to take the paper towel that you just used, use it to pick up a few others and throw it away? Just leave the place a little better than you found it. If people adopt that and live that, and just constantly leaving something a little bit better than you found it, your work environment would be better, your home environment would be better, the world would be better, community, headspace, all of it.
100%.
So, random.
What's cool?
Completely agree.
What's cool with the Heppism thing, I think it ties into, like, with your family, there is like a culture like within your family and like values you guys uphold, which I think is really cool. And sort of like to have like Macrae-isms or Russin-isms. I think it's like a cool thing for families.
And that's where I truly feel like a lot of that culture that we've had as a family has translated into our business mostly because of the leadership of my mom, and the leadership that I've gained from, her and my dad. But like the level of detail that it takes to run a title company is far beyond my capability of detail. That's why I'm in the position that I'm in, and I'm not the one doing the transactions. And so a lot of the times where, like, her example of detail in her example of like filling a need, like seeing a need, filling a need. Some things like that are definitely part of our culture with our, cause that's how that same, what you said is exactly what my dad taught us. And so I feel like a lot of those culture points have translated into our business, which has been a huge reason why the synergy in our office between our team is so fantastic. The way that we treat people, the way that the customers, because in our world, it's all about customer service, like 100%. The only way you're going to get business over and over and over from the same people is if you treat them right and you treat the transaction right. And that is solely off the culture that my parents ingrained in our family, which is then ingrained into the business. So,
which is tough because when you think about it, your title, the product is basically the same, and literally the price, if we were to call 10 different companies here in town, I bet you the title charges would be within $150, maybe $200, totaling everything together.
Yep.
So if the product is the same, the cost is nearly the same. It really comes down to the customer
execution, customer experience, 100%. Learn that very early, and that's why my mom has been so successful, because she will stay till 10 if she needs to. She will, even though as much as I try to just go. That's just how she's always operated. But the level of care, the level of detail, the level of execution to bend over backwards for somebody to get a deal done is just what we're able to do. And the culture that we've created is that urgency. It's thorough. We're thorough and detailed, but we are also very, very fast. Someone needs some basic CC&Rs or HOA info. Bailey in my office will likely have them to that person in under 60 seconds if she's at her computer and not at lunch. Like it's, and I have many examples of that.
Write that down. I want to test that.
We'll send an email right now.
So I just have a personal question on this. If you had a pie graph, what is the percentage of time that you call your mom or less in the office?
Oh, it's always less.
Always.
It's almost always less, unless we are in a unless it's like brought up as like I wouldn't call it a joke, but like if we're talking as an office or something, and I'm like, okay, mom, or like if we like in kind of a sarcastic way. But other than that, it's less for the most part.
So on a Saturday afternoon barbecue at home,
it's mom.
You do. So
it's separated.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like intentional?
I think in a way it is. I know she appreciates when I call her mom still, but just in the business, I just have gotten used to, I'll check with Les, or like when I'm talking to other people, and then it just translates into the office, and so the only time, and then I like on email too, like if it's just me and her talking, sometimes I'll throw a mom in there. If it's me, her, and my brother in an email chain and no one else is in there, I'll just, mom, what's this? But other than that, it's less. So it's high 90s%.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The one thing on your success too that I've always admired, sometimes it's frustrating to be like totally honest, is like you guys always hold like a really high standard. So, and not like in a bad way, but like we had that Parenthood Homes deal, $5 million transaction, big one. Mm-hmm. Everyone's on like pins and needles. The day of closing, something comes up, and it goes back to what you said earlier, where you and your mom are a partner. I had a question for you. You called. You said, "Hey, let me call Les." Business, right? Not mom. I'm not calling mom. I'm calling Les. And within like 5 or 10 minutes, you both called me. Then we got the agent involved, and it was like we all solved the problem. And it was like, hey, we're willing to do this, but not this. And there was a standard, and then we got it done. Mm-hmm. But it was like as a partnership, you were working to do that, and do it the right way. And I know some title companies may have done it not that way, or even in business, you can choose to maybe not take the high road. Like in your business, and especially being in a small town, how have you seen that like affect your business by like keeping it above board?
Yeah.
Does it hurt you or?
No, it doesn't. So there's been very few occasions where we've been like, oh, we can't do this, and someone else takes it and does it. It's very, very rare. However, and this has definitely helped us tenfold, because I'm a very trusting person. I'm a very open person. If someone tells me something, it could be the biggest lie in the world, and unless they give me a reason to like doubt them, I will trust anything that anybody says. So sometimes that hurts me, because you talk to sometimes developers or people that are doing different things, and they say stuff that is definitely not what is really going on. And then we get deep enough and we find out that they want us to do some stuff that is not above board. Luckily, because of my mom, Les, whatever, runs a very tight ship, and she is very much, there's no real gray area with her. It's like, this is how it's supposed to be done. This is what we're not going to do. And in very few occasions has it turned out to be something that is a negative, and that someone takes it and closes it somewhere else. I can't even think of one really. And so it's actually helped me a lot, because it's helped me to foresee. Now I know some people that I almost started getting business from, and I didn't end up getting business from them, and now they're in positions that I'm so glad, because I'm a people pleaser, and if someone wants me to do something, and I don't know that it's bad, that's why it's always been nice to go to her and be like, hey, so and so wants me to do this, and she's like, no. And so it's always long-term thinking, small town. You want to be above board, because your reputation can go south very quickly, and I've seen it. I've seen reputations go so far south, and then you're just not trusted. So it's never worth the one transaction to get through. It's never worth doing something that is illegal or in any way what we're not supposed to do.
Just in gray, right? Not even illegal, but one of those like perceived that it wasn't above board.
And yeah, exactly. And that's not to say that we like, when there's something like that, and it's like, I want to try everything I possibly can to get that cleared, right? If it can't ultimately be cleared, there's not, and we do everything we can to clear that, I feel okay. And that's why there is some flexibility in like figuring out, how do we get this done? Because we're never the type that's going to figure out every way to block it. We're the type that we're going to do everything we can to open the gates on it, right? If that makes sense.
But even if you have to tell someone who's proposing something in the gray, you lose a transaction here or there, but you generally start attracting those who want to operate above board.
Above board, correct.
So you get higher quality clients, at least from my perspective.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah, ethics in business, I think, sometimes can get overlooked for just like a sale, but long term, especially in like our community, it's more important than I think a lot of people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like people attract. I truly believe that. So I want to ask, if you were talking to a young hustler, maybe a recent college graduate, what advice would you give them to start building their network? And two, if it was someone that wanted to start a social media presence, that same person, right? What recommendation would you give for those two?
Well, first off, I would say, to build a network, figure out what your value proposition is in whatever it is that you're going to do. And whatever it is that you're going to do, or that you have ambition, whether you know exactly what you're going to do or not. A lot of times people don't. And so like in my position, when I started with Vivint, I didn't know what I was going to do for my life, but I knew that Vivint was a place where I would be around other very ambitious, very driven, very influential people and actually, 13 years later, they're still friends of mine. And there's some people that I know from the Vivint days that are very, very high net worth, high influential, role model type people. And I knew, so the first thing would be to just know kind of who you want to be around, and figure out, for one, how to be around those types of people, whether it is a Vivint position like I had, where I knew that I could go in and I could learn sales, but I could also be around some high level people. And then once you're in that, in those situations, never go into it thinking about yourself. Like, never go into it thinking about what you're going to get out of that conversation. What you go into it with is just a genuine desire to get to know this person and how you can even be of value to them. What are they looking for? What are they doing? How can you help them? How can you be a friend to them in any way? And I think it just snowballs from there. And just knowing that it's a long business is a very long-term game. The people that think about it short-term are the ones that hop around from either place to place or job to job or industry to industry. They may not think, they're not thinking long-term, so they're just thinking about how to get the next dollar. Whereas if you just think long-term, that's the biggest key, is thinking, okay, what is, when I think about my business right now, I think about what's going to be happening in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and what we're going to do to go, hop hurdles that could happen during those times. But I think that as a young, 20-something-year-old that doesn't really maybe know what you're going to do, just have those things in mind. As far as building a social media presence, it's really hard because I don't view myself as a social media expert. But
you're crushing it on social media.
Yes.
So by accident.
Well, it's so weird because and you talk to Ty or, people that my videos are so unorthodox. They're so different. They are so not what you're supposed to do. I don't have captions. They are 5-minute videos. They're just not, so that's what's so funny is and maybe this is the trick, is just finding something that people really love and being consistent with it. With me, my videos are not the typical video. All these things that I've mentioned, they're not actually really recipes for success, but because of the content that I provide in those videos, they have become successful. I don't know. That's why I don't feel like I'm an expert in social media. I just post. I don't know. It's weird.
But that's where
Does that make sense?
But that's where I disagree with you, in that you found a way to make a boring newsletter interesting.
True.
And you just used a different platform. I think it was quite ingenious, and you leveraged it.
Yeah.
I think even yourself, you're not worried about the views. You're looking at the quality of the views, not the numbers, but the eyeballs that are actually looking at it.
Right.
So that part, I want to say, I think there's a light bulb that came on that thought, man, here's an idea, and you executed it. How many people have light bulbs but lack in the execution piece?
Yeah. And it's the consistency thing too, because the first couple of years, like I said before, my views weren't really going anywhere, and they weren't very much, and I wasn't too worried about it. But if you just keep being consistent, I looked at last year, I was in the Rise Summit. I did one of the breakouts, and we did it kind of in a podcast style. It was me and Brad Harker, and he had me look up my views from 2018 to 22 versus my views from in 23 and 24. And it's just crazy. So watching that, literal up. I mean, even 2 years ago, I was getting maybe 1,000, 1,500 views on YouTube, and now it's anywhere from 15,000 to 50,000 views on a video.
Oh, wow.
And it's just the consistency thing, and it's hard. Sometimes I film on Wednesdays, usually. This week it was yesterday, but there are times where literally Tuesday afternoon I'm like, where am I going to go tomorrow morning? And what am I going to talk about tomorrow morning? And I try not to put myself in those situations. I try to kind of have an idea, but there's sometimes where it's something, one of the big news pieces that I'm supposed to do that week ends up saying, oh, we got to wait, a couple weeks. And then last minute, I'm like, I've got to figure out somewhere else to go. And my videos are not just like highlighting one thing. My videos are highlighting to 8 to 10 things. And so then it's like stressful, putting all these things last minute, but somehow it always ends up working. And really the only time that I skip a week is if I'm out of town. Other than that, it's pretty much every week. And it's just whatever it is you're doing it consistently. And over time, it's just gonna, if it's valuable to people, it's just gonna keep growing.
Yeah, I'm reading the Alex Hormozi $100 million offers. Have you guys read that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is you're providing insane value, right, for free, and it's like almost stupid of people to not watch it.
Right.
And it's like you hit this home run. He talks about hitting home runs, and it's like you hit this home run. But you wouldn't have if you wouldn't have kept trying to do it and stayed consistent.
Right. Yeah. Or if I would have been like, man, these videos suck. Like, I'm terrible. Because if you go back to my first videos, they're bad. But luckily, for some reason, I just kept at it and I kept at it. And I think I got enough feedback that people were like, man, I love your videos, that I was like, man, even though I'm not very good on camera, and I still am not super comfortable. I'm way more comfortable than I was. But like, if I'm filming and someone like walks by, I stop, because I still am uncomfortable that they're listening to me film. And so there's still and I think it's just pushing through those. And I think you nailed that. I mean, there are so many reasons why people watch my videos. And one of the best that I'd love to hear is people that or maybe, if there's like one that I can think of is a sign guy, and he listens, or he reads my newsletter and watches for every video, because he wants to know what companies are coming so that he can go get in front of them for them to buy signs from him. And he's told me that he's gotten business because of my videos. And so like it's really a good feeling to know that like there's people that are benefiting from these videos, and then the people that are moving here too. Like, I've had multiple people come up to me and be like, I moved here because of your videos. Do you know that? And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, they're like, yeah, I found, I was looking around the Southwest, and, I searched St. George and your name popped up, and I watched your video, and then I fell in love with St. George. And it's just cool. It's really cool to be able to get those types of interactions. Apart from just, the value that I build for, because realtors love it. They love sending it off to their clients that are moving here from all over the place, lenders and builders. And it's a really big resource. And then it's also, cities love it, because I've kind of become this, I don't work for the city and I'm not a politician, but I'm on social media telling people the facts versus what they heard from their neighbor about different things that are happening. So I just did a video on the parks and rec of St. George, which was kind of a big deal last year because of the geo bond that was being passed on the ballot, whether that was going to get renewed or not. And last year I did a video that basically gave all the facts of what the geo bond provided and what it was going to cost and all this stuff. And then I did a follow-up just barely that's showing all the parks and rec that are going into St. George because of the geo bond. And so it's fun to also be on that side of it, because cities get harped. I mean, cities get railed on all the time, and I just like being able to provide factual, because I know that I can reach out to someone at the city councilman, whatever, and get the facts and then put that out there, because I feel like the cities are doing as good of a job as they can. There are things that are frustrating with cities, of course, but I just feel like if we just have better vibes amongst the entire community, the more that we're just going to continue to build upon that. So anyway, lots of different factors that go into it, other than just maybe the business that I get from it or the connections that I make. So
The one thing on that though is it didn't just happen overnight, and so I think for maybe the viewers listening, if you're cool with it, just do like a quick exercise. So you've been doing, how many videos have you done? Do you know?
So I can't remember the videos so I've been doing the newsletter since 2016, which is 8 years.
8 years.
And then I've been doing the videos since the first video I did was April of 2018. So I just crossed 6 years on that. The first couple of years it was about once a month. And then when COVID hit and all the brokerages and everybody shut down their offices, and I kind of lost my way of, like I had mentioned, going around to all the brokerages. I was like, well, I'm just going to double down on videos, and I'm going to start doing them once a week. So for the past 4 years, I've been doing them once a week for the most part. And I think I've averaged about, I would say 40 videos a year the last 3 years.
So 40, so at least 120. So you're probably over 200 easy, right? Or close to 200.
Probably close, if I had to guess.
And then how much
And they're
time?
all like 5 to 7 minutes.
How long does it take you as far as like prepping, filming?
It depends, but the filming itself is no more than an hour.
Okay.
Because my video guy he's the one that makes it all pretty. Caden Kelsch, Vision Impact Productions is the reason why they are as good as they are. I used to fly the drone myself for the first couple of years. Once he took that over, you can tell, like if you go down the sequence of my videos and you watch the last one that I did and then the next one that he did, you know exactly where he took over he took over the drone. But he's the one that edits it, he gets all the footage. And so for me, the filming part is no more than an hour. The prep work, it just depends on the week. The nice thing about my newsletter is kind of a running tally of like what's going on in each area. So I don't have to like rethink about, okay, what's all happening in this area, because I have like a running list already of the different areas. So the prep work, and that's the cool thing about the prep work, is it's just reaching out to all these influential real estate people, whether they're commercial brokers or developers, city people, all the different people that I want to have conversations with anyway. And it's just following up with them, and they're usually really good at getting me information that I need. So I would say no more than like 2 hours a week.
2 hours.
But just because I've and then posting it maybe 2.5, 3 hours a week.
So we're easily probably 1,000 hours plus, if not more, a couple thousand hours of all the time you put into it, not to mention your editor's time.
And that's more, and that's just like thinking about the prep work and just writing the list. It's definitely more hours than that. Yeah.
And it reminds me of Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers. Have you read that?
Yeah, it's a great one.
So he says that his kind of theory behind it is 10,000 hours and you become like this leading expert.
Yep.
And I just want people to realize is like, he's not an overnight success, and it's like thousands and thousands of hours went into like creating this home run, which is cool.
Yeah, no, someone the other day was like, I told them I'd been doing it for 6 years, and they're like, oh, it hasn't just been like in the last year? And I'm like, no. And they're like, I just thought it was this new thing. And I'm like, no, this is years and years of compiling information and work, and it's paying off. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite parts of what I do, and hope to see it all continue here.
Yeah, it's super cool, man.
Well, Macrae, I know we're about at the hour mark for the podcast, and I know that we need to wrap, but I just want to tell you how much I admire you. Meeting you when you were doing the gym thing before you even jumped into title, and to watch you grow in both your personal life, from being a single dude to married with kids, and watching you from being summer sales, gym, and then into title, and see what you've accomplished. I just have a lot of respect for you.
I appreciate that.
Respect the hustle.
Yeah,
thank you.
To that point too, I feel like you've raised the tide of all the title companies too, of like, hey, there's like this expectation and standard.
For sure.
Like on a local level. So like, kudos, man.
Thank you.
For sure.
No, I appreciate that. And I actually was just having that conversation. I do feel like there has been certain things that we do as a team that I notice now other teams doing, and it's, it's cool because it does just raise the tide of everybody in town. And we all, I mean, we work with other title companies on a daily basis with split transactions, and it's why it's really important that we maintain good relationships within our industry, because you don't want to be the company that no one wants to work with. And the amount of times that we get, you know, kudos from other title companies on when, you know, they're like, yes, like, yay, we're doing, like, we're so glad that it's a split with you guys. And it's a what do you call it? I hate when I can't think of words. It's a
Symbiotic?
no, it's what's the word? It's a testament to what what we've created as a team.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. That's
and our team is amazing. We have so many amazing people, and they crank and crank and crank. And
So how do people get a hold of you? Whether they've got questions or title work that they want to send, questions about your videos, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I always give out my cell number. I'm happy to do that. It's 435-668-7293. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and then my email is Macrae@eaglegatetitle.com. And yeah, I'm happy to help in any regard that I can, if I can. So.
Well, thanks for being on with us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.